Question.
Answer.
Are you coming to the tree? What's going on, guys? I'm Chris, and welcome back to another video. Today we're reviewing The Hunger Games, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, based on the novel. The movie hit theaters this weekend. I'm joined by my lovely lady from Cam. How you doing?
Good.
There won't be any spoilers, so don't worry about that, but be sure to hit the like button. Comment down below your thoughts on this Hunger Games prequel film. Subscribe and hit that notification bell to help me reach my goal of 100,000 subscribers here on the channel. It would mean a lot. I have to preface, I've seen the movie twice. Round one is almost, it doesn't count, because we saw the film at an early screening, and there was general audience and press. We were in the press section. Behind us was general audience, and there were some people who were giving their running commentary of the entire movie, talking basically into our ear. There was someone coughing up a lung the entire time. Phones were going off. It was one of the worst theater experiences I've ever had in my entire life.
Yeah.
So I didn't feel right to review this movie with just that experience, so I went back today, the earliest showing they had, and now I've seen the film twice, and I have a whole new appreciation for it. So starting with the positives here, I love how this movie expands the world of the Hunger Games.
Yes.
Especially the lore of the games themselves with characters like Dr. Gall, Casca Highbottom, Snow. It's just, it fleshed out the games, and it's crazy to see the progression of them, like in the films that we grew up with, to the prequel and where they once were.
Yes.
It's wild to see the progression of the games.
It's truly crazy. Like, when movies come out, there'll be phrases that, like, press says where it's like, the Hunger Games out, like, you've never seen them before. But genuinely, this is like the Hunger Games, like, you've never seen it before. Because when we see the Hunger Games, you know, the tributes are living in luxury, and they're getting all these nice things, and they're getting these training sessions, and that's not what it's like during the 10th Hunger Games. It's the polar opposite. So it's really interesting as well because Snow is the main character, Coriolanus, and in the Hunger Games film franchise that came out in 2012 to 2015, we see him as President Snow, played by Donald Sutherland. He's much older, seasoned, been in the game a while. This movie shows why he gained a lot of distrust towards others, why he grew this disdain for other characters, notably from District 12, as he has to mentor Lucy Gray Baird in the 10th Annual Hunger Games as a part of the main plot, which I won't go into too much. I know a lot of you have probably read the book, but his progression as a character, by far the most fascinating part of this movie to me. It's just really interesting to see him with Lucy Gray and how much that feeds into his dislike for Katniss. It'll actually be really interesting to like rewatch all the Hunger Games movies after this, because Snow in those movies says things where it's like, oh, you know, that's probably why, because of this happening in this movie. Yeah, so it does give a lot of depth to his character, and you can, you know, go back and rewatch those 4 films and probably have a new light, new appreciation for them, especially the character of Snow, because it's not like he's just the most despicable person from the jump. We see, again, sort of a downfall, a downward spiral of his character by the end of this movie, and you feel for him at times. Like, I'm just going to be honest, you do, and that's kind of the point, I feel, is to make him this charismatic guy, but also he's got his problems and some troublesome things arise over the course of the movie, so I was fascinated by that for sure. And then, of course, you got Rachel Zegler as Lucy Gray Baird, who is the runt from District 12. She is very musically gifted. Yes. That's no secret. And that was another part of the film that I love, was the music. Yes. She obviously sings her songs with the covey in this movie, but also the score. It was outstanding. So
multiple,
good.
like, chillingly good moments.
It's still not on Spotify, and I'm
what?
I know. The movie's out. Release the score.
Cowards. Yeah.
I need to inject the score of this movie into my veins.
Absolutely.
As somebody who read the book before going to see the movie, it's really interesting to see like what parts of the book they chose to take out. The movie also added some things that weren't necessarily in the book that changed some dynamics a little bit, so that was really fascinating for sure, like just as somebody who knows the two differences. One thing that I was worried about going into this movie, when you read the book, you're in Snow's head. All of the thoughts that Snow has about these people around him are thoughts that you're reading in a book, but when you watch a movie, you can't hear him narrate his thoughts. So I was worried how that was going to translate onto screen, and Tom Blyth did a really good job, especially in the third act, in like the main like downward spiral of the film. His face portrays every single emotion that Snow has in that scene in the book. Amazing. A lot of that just comes down to directorial choices as well, like close-ups on his eyes sort of signifying the importance of shots and like how he emotionally feels about characters and situations, and he plays it so well. Rachel Zegler's great. In fact, the performances across the board are outstanding. I'd say this is a very well-cast movie. To a T, and as someone who hasn't read the book, I imagine page to screen, it brought it to life. Oh, perfectly.
Yeah.
Perfectly.
I mean, I'm a huge Peter Dinklage fan. We all love him as Tyrion from Game of Thrones.
He's great.
He's just one of the premier sort of character actors of our time where he commits to these roles. And whenever it was him and Tom Blyth in a scene together, it felt Game of Thrones, you know, high stakes, dramatic. And there was that. It's not like you're watching an action scene go down. You're just watching well-written dialogue and two damn near thespians go at it on screen.
It's
and
tense.
that, yeah, the tension. It's there. It's felt from the start. And another great casting choice, Viola Davis. I mean,
so good, because Dr. Gall is so weird. She's so odd. Like, she's always speaking in riddles. She's just a weird nutcase of a character.
Yeah.
And Viola Davis, perfect. Also, not to mention Josh Rivera as Sejanus. Great.
the thing about that character I found interesting was, like, he doesn't have many moments where he has those outbursts. He has some, but, like, a lot of it is sort of this built-up hatred and contempt for the Capitol, and you just see that in his character almost, again, through his eyes. A lot of these actors aren't doing over-the-top things. It's not like, you know,
It's
they're
a lot
having
of this,
yelling
like,
matches.
under the
Yeah,
surface.
it's subdued in a way, but very effective. And, again, the performances across the board were outstanding here. Now, when it comes to the structure of the movie, as a book reader versus a movie watcher, I think it'd be interesting to compare the viewpoints there because there's 3 parts, and I think the first 2 flow smoothly into each other and they feel like more immediate, whereas with the third part, that's where the movie, and this is my only real critique, is it does slow down a bit, I think, because it shows where Snow is at, and it makes the audience want to feel that, but at the same time, it's probably the weakest act to me, because I was so invested in the first 2 acts. The third drags a little. I still loved, I mean, I have chills right now thinking about the final shot of this movie, but I do think that it just did slightly feel a little overlong and dragged out at times.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of felt like that when I read the book the first time around.
Yeah.
Like, I remember texting my friend and being like, "Ooh, okay, well, I'm trudging through the beginning of the third part of the book. Once you get to the second half of, like, Act 3,
Yes.
smooth sailing,
I
it's
do,
great.
yeah, I think the movie ends on a high note.
Right?
I do.
But, like, in the first half, especially in the book, the movie went through it really fast compared to the book. The book, it really shows, like, the mundane practice of Snow waking up as a peacekeeper, going to get breakfast, going to do peacekeeper duties, going back to bed, repeat,
Monotonous, almost.
waiting until he can get to the weekend so he can see Lucy Gray. And it's kind of like, okay, I get it. The movie did a really good job of making sure we felt that, but not making it so repetitive and boring in a way.
It feels the longest of the 3 parts.
It's really hard to follow up the games.
Yeah, it's hard.
In
you know,
any Hunger Games movie, it's
Yes.
hard to follow up the games.
Correct. But when you think about it, it still delivers a high-stakes ending. It's an unconventional third act.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of times, Hollywood blockbusters like this will build up to a big battle. It's almost like the battle or final showdown is the Hunger Games in the middle of the movie, but then there's so much more. It almost becomes a sort of a mental battle, if you will, by the end, and it's like outwitting other characters, and that I thought was a fascinating twist, which is why it still stuck the landing
That's
for me.
what the games are literally all about. That's what the games are. In the original 4 movies we see, like, PETA plays the game really well with, like, the way that he does his interviews and stuff.
And in fact, talking through this, I didn't realize how similar The Hunger Games and Game of Thrones were, I think, if you really get down to it. Another thing, technically speaking, that I want to highlight, costumes in this film were outstanding.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
and I'm not usually one to pinpoint something like that, but I think this should get nominated for an Oscar.
The mock-up of Lucy Gray's iconic rainbow dress is so much more fantastic than anything I could have ever thought of, because in the book, it's not a picture book. You have to use your own imagination when you read it. It's described as a rainbow dress, and they compare her to a clown. So imagine a reader trying to figure out what that dress looks like. Could be a billion different things. They made it look really good and not goofy, like I kind of pictured in my head at first.
Yeah, this movie, there was a lot of attention to detail and just the production design, from like the set pieces to the costumes to everything on screen. It felt Hunger Games.
Yes.
And that's what I love, is it felt like a direct continuation without just being a copy-paste of the plot of the first 4 movies. It was a fresh take in this universe that fleshed out the main villain of the original series, gave him depth, humanized him in a way. I mean, it's just the way it is.
Yeah.
It did, in my opinion.
Humanized him until the very end.
Correct. And that was the point, and it was very effective at that. The only minor knock I have on this movie is that it drags a little in the third act. That was inevitable following up the games. I have to mention how the character of Lucky Flickerman was in this movie.
So
and how
good.
he's obviously related to Caesar.
Yes.
Who we know and love as Stanley Tucci.
Yes.
But that character added much needed comedic relief to the movie and got a lot of good laughs out of it.
He is used a lot more in the movie than he is in the book, to my memory. I could be wrong about that, but I'm pretty confident he's used more in the movie than he is in the book. And I'm glad they used him more.
Yeah.
He was really, really great and funny.
Yeah, and look, this movie, it's smart, it's clever. There's a lot of writing decisions that pay off, especially on second viewing. It plants the seeds early for some awesome callbacks later on. There's some, you know, double crossing going on in this film, some backstabbing, and that's what I really have to highlight the most, is that we see the character of Snow learn to play the game over the course of the film. He starts to outwit people, and I'm a sucker for stories like that when they're so well written, the dialogue, but the story itself, and that all culminates in The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, making it, in my opinion, one of the stronger films in the series and one of the better movies I've seen this year.
Both movie and book-wise, it really is such a well thought out prequel from Suzanne Collins. Like, I wish more franchises would do what she did, and instead of rebooting your franchise or whatever, go and tell a different story from it. It's just like so good.
I agree, and at the end of the day, I think this is a win for the franchise. Would you agree?
Yes.
So all in all, The Hunger Games, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes is a win. Check this movie out. It's like a 4.5 out of 5 for me, and for you,
5 out of 5.
5 out of 5. One of the better movies of the year to me. I recommend it highly. So go check this out if you're a Hunger Games fan or not. That's our opinion. Let us know yours in the comments down below, and hit that like button. Subscribe and hit that notification bell so you can be notified for all of my future videos. Thank you guys as always, and may the odds be ever in your favor.